In the apostolic exhortation Ecclesia in Africa, which St. John Paul II wrote following the 1994 Synod of Bishops, he speaks of inculturation as one of the greatest challenges for the Church on the eve of the third millennium, and a difficult and delicate task. According to Pedro Arrupe, former Superior General of the Jesuits, inculturation is the incarnation of Christian life and of the Christian message in a particular cultural context, in such a way that this experience not only finds expression through elements proper to the culture in question, but becomes a principle that animates, directs, and unifies the culture, transforming and remaking it so as to bring about a new creation. Definitions of inculturation generally emphasize its goals, such as the rooting of Christianity in diverse cultures, the transformation of cultures in light of the gospel, the evangelization of every aspect of the individual and societal life of a people, and the unique expression of the Church present in every culture. In 1492, when the Christian faith became strongly identified with Western Christendom, most missionaries implanted the Church as it was experienced in their homelands. James Michener's Hawaii is a good example of this. In this novel, missionaries considered the Hawaiian way of life as the work of the devil. Missionaries to these islands saw their task not only to convert the native peoples to Jesus Christ, but also to impose their Western cultural norms, such as dressing the indigenous in Western clothes, applying the norms of Western morality, and building churches and liturgical communities reflecting the European model. Missionaries to Latin America and Africa reflected these same attitudes and acted in similar ways. However, some missionaries at this time portrayed a more accommodating approach and a more positive attitude toward new cultures. Missionaries such as Cyril and Methodius with Slavic peoples, Bartolomé de las Casas in South America, St. Francis Xavier and other Jesuits in Asia, and Samuel Ajay Crowther and Daniel Kamboni in Africa, accepted native peoples as true children of God, thus deserving respect. The Sacred Congregation for the Propagation of the Faith in 1659 reminded missionaries that it was not their task to bring any pressure for the peoples to change their manners, customs, and uses unless they are evidently contrary to religion and sound morals. The Second Vatican Council recovered this positive attitude toward culture. In encountering other peoples, the Church must implant itself in the same way that Christ, by his incarnation, committed himself to the particular social and cultural circumstances. Recovering the image of Justin Martyr of the early Church regarding the philosophy of his time, the Council insisted that Christians should be familiar with their national and religious traditions and uncover with gladness and respect those seeds of the Word which lie hidden among them. The local churches are to borrow from the customs, traditions, wisdom, teaching, arts, and sciences of their people everything which could be used to praise the glory of the Creator. During a famous address in Kampala, Uganda, several years after the council, Pope Paul VI proclaimed that you may and you must have an African Christianity. The word inculturation was introduced to capture this dynamic interaction between the gospel and church tradition on the one hand, and the changing social and cultural context on the other. Missionaries beginning to work in another culture have a tendency to rely upon the established ways of propagating the faith, instead of investing time and energy in creatively finding new ways of shaping the faith and handing it on in a form that is truly enculturated in a variety of cultural situations. Change brought about by authentic enculturation must not be seen as a loss or diminishment, but growth in the true Catholic nature of Christianity. Missionaries are called to see that Catholic Christianity, while it is to be universal and united, does not imply uniformity in all areas and at all levels. The concept of enculturation implies a confidence that the seeds of God's Word are present before the Church becomes a part of the culture. Thus, successful enculturation involves listening to many voices, especially the varied voices of the laity, who are empowered and encouraged to speak and witness to their faith. Enculturation presupposes a personal knowledge of and encounter with Jesus. Jesus is the good news, the gospel we try to make present in our cultural situation. Commitment to Jesus and openness to being led by the Spirit is presupposed for effective enculturation. Enculturation involves the cross. It demands conversion, a dying to the old and a moving to the new. There is an emptying, a letting go, so that something new and unknown, untested, can be born. This is difficult and meets resistance. Enculturation encompasses all areas of church life: theological, liturgical, catechetical, pastoral, and familial. It also grapples with the major questions of poverty, injustice, and marginalization in our world. Often linked with issues of justice, enculturation will at times pose a challenge to the ruling powers. Much resistance will come to a prophetic voice when it calls for enculturation of the Christian faith in a sinful, unjust world. The road of enculturation is an exciting, challenging, and at times dangerous one. Authentic enculturation will always respect the native genius and character of each culture, since there is no single Christian culture. Missionaries must have a profound personal knowledge of and encounter with Jesus in order to best articulate the gospel in time and place. It is only by developing personal relationships with the people can one discern how best to present the dynamic message of Jesus. Enculturating the gospel is not an easy endeavor. It requires an open heart, a love for the people, a commitment to embrace the cross, and an acceptance of the Paschal mystery. That being said, because it is indeed a defining characteristic of the mission of the Church, it is well worth the undertaking.